Okay, so this render is still completing, but there's enough of it there to show you what's going on. So our beauty is unchanged. We also have the light selects, and in the HDRI we can see just the contribution of our light dome. Now you can see it's very noisy, so we probably want to up the samples on the HDRI. So again, these light elements, render elements, can be useful for tweaking your render settings even if you don't need them to affect things in comp. We can also, oh, it's just, there we go. We also have this fill light, so you can see it's just giving us a bit of extra lighting down here, so it's not completely one point lighting. The moonlight, maybe we like this effect more without the fill light. We want this sort of very, very dramatic effect, and that's all working great. But when we get down to our lamp light select, well, it hasn't worked, and that may not be surprising to many of you since I haven't actually put a light in it. Now the question is, what is the mesh light? What is the element that I need to put in there? So we can go over on our set editor, and we can find, if I type mesh, so we have these two. We have the V-Ray light mesh properties, and we have the light mesh properties light link, and we actually need to put both of them into our set in order for it to work. So we don't need the filament. We don't need the filament geometry, but we do need this prefix and this light mesh. So if I render it again, everything should be the same except for our lamp light. And if we go to our lamp light select, and remember it's following around, you can already see we're getting just the lighting from the lamp, and we've seen in the demo the sort of power we can get from that. Now there are some other things that are notable about the way this is working. This is not the same as the lighting element. You may remember that our lighting element combines all the lights, but it's only affecting the diffuse, and this is essentially the same for all the other passes. Now with our light selects, we're getting essentially a version of the beauty render. The beauty render lit with only one light. That is something you can change in the layer properties, in the render element settings. So if I open my render settings here, and I find, for example, the moonlight, we can actually go over here, and in the extra V-Ray attributes, we can decide how we're going to do this. And we should be wanting to consider for anti-aliasing. That would be a good idea, probably for all of these. But apart from that, what we can change is we can decide, do we want all the stuff that's being lit, and that includes the SSS, and this is actually a new feature from V-Ray 3. So in earlier versions of V-Ray, if you still have one, you will find that you won't be able to see the SSS in there, but you can just get the direct diffuse. So if I do that, my moonlight will render, unlike that not being a beauty, but essentially being a lighting pass of just one light. Now that's great if you don't have anything that's very shiny, reflective, refractive, and so forth. If everything is diffuse, it's going to work great, but it's not going to look great on a lot of other things. So you can see the wall, it hasn't really changed. The plant has now gone black, so it's not getting anything. The bottle is going to be black, and so we're going to get a much more limited version. Now, one workflow, again, it's not going to work in this scene because we have the plant, which is SSS, we have subsurface scatter, we have the refractive bottles and glasses, but you could render this a diffuse and then create another light select, essentially duplicate the light select and set that up to be direct specular, and then you get the specular lighting, and that's handy. So you've got the that you can have a simple kind of back to beauty for one light, where you've got just a diffuse and a specular. So I've paused the recording and I've repeated the process to create not only the 4 lighting passes with set to full, so each of these will be a complete beauty render with only one light, but I have created diffuse, direct, specular, and raw for each light. Now unfortunately, you can't get all of the passes per light. So you can't have an SSS per light, or a reflection per light, or refraction per light. So you are limited in how effectively you're exchanging one form of power and control for another. So using the passes set to full, you have complete control over the lights you're using, but you are losing control over the passes. With the direct and specular, I mean, if you only have direct diffuse and specular in your scene, then obviously you have complete control over the passes. But in a scene like ours, you will have to cheat using color corrects or something else. You can sort of create a big pass which will have everything except the diffuse and the specular. So you can do a few things, but you are limited. With that said, I'm going to render this out and we'll take it into Nuke.